So, welcome, bienvenue. Nous recevons
We are now
la productrice
going to start on
Lee
the press
Eugene.
conference for The Broker. We
Nous
have
recevons
Lee
la
Eugene,
comédienne
producer,
Lee Joo-young,
Lee Joo-young, actress,
la comédienne Lee Ji-eun,
Lee Ji-eun,
le comédien Gang Dong-won,
actress,
le
Gong Dong-won,
comédien
actor,
Kang-ho
Song Kang-ho, actor,
et le réalisateur
and the director,
Koreeda Hirokazu.
Koreeda Hirokazu.
Could you take your, please? Sorry. Je vais tout de suite
I'd like
poser une
to
première
ask a
question.
first question.
Vos personnages sont tous des
Your
solitaires.
characters are all very solitary,
Solidaires.
yet they are a close-knit group. You've often talked about the family in your films, and this group makes up a family. Why did you take up this topic, namely choose a family whose individual members chose to become a family?
지은 씨 안 들린다는데?
On a un petit problème de casque que nous allons résoudre. Just 1 minute.
말씀해 봐 주세요.
네, 들립니다.
It's okay.
네, 네, 들립니다.
まずはたくさんお集まりいただいてありがとうございます。
Tout d'abord, merci infiniment d'être
Thank you
ici.
very much for having come in such large numbers today.
今回車に乗り込む者たちの疑似家族の旅というのを描こうというふうに思って書き始めたプロットでそこに乗り合わせる人たちが、あらかじめいろいろな形で一般的に考えられる普通の家族親子というものから、排除されている切り離されて生きてきたという人たちが、ほんの短い間同じ車に乗るという話にしたいなと思って書きました。そのことによって、私たちが考えている考えて捉えている、家族というものを捉え直したいという気持ちもありましたし、彼らがその一瞬だけ手にすることで何か一つだけいいことをする、すごく小さな悪人だったり悪意を持って旅に同行したりした人たちが一ついいことをするって、そんな物語を紡いでみたいなと思った映画です。
Ce film raconte effectivement
This film tells the story
quelque part
of
composé
a
par
family
choix. Ce sont des
which
individus
came
qui, au
together by
départ,
choice.
dans leur situation
The
familiale
individuals
initiale,
in their
étaient
initial
rejetés.
family setting were actually rejected,
Embarqués à bord de
and
cette
they
voiture pour partir ensemble en
board
voyage,
this car, set off on a trip as though by chance together. So indeed, I wanted to draw the portrait of a family where members chose to belong to that family. Each of the characters have committed offenses or more major crimes, and they end up together. They try for once in their life to do something good to a greater or lesser degree. They finally think of others. They try to be kind. So I wanted to depict this common desire through the trip they embark on together.
Hello everyone, I'm Eun-sun from South Korea. I have a question to director. In the film, Sang-yeon and Dong-soo are serious criminals who kidnap the children, but I think film's attitude towards them seems to kind and soft and with very intense humanism. So I feel a little bit confused when see them. They are criminals or a companion with the human side. So tell us about how you thought about the while creating these characters. Thank you.
描かれるモチーフが深刻であればあるほどディテールの描写にはある種の軽やかさとかおかしみみたいなもの コメディではないですけど人間が本来持っている、存在のおかしみみたいなものを表現したいなと思いましたし、その表現をするにはソン・ガンホさんという役者さんは一番ぴったりだなというふうに思ってました。
Je crois que quelque part, plus les
I
situations,
think
plus les personnages sont graves,
that the
plus il y a
more
une
the
gravité
situations and the
derrière
characters are
les éléments, et
serious, the
plus
more
j'ai
serious
envie de leur
things are,
apporter une
the
touche
more
d'humour,
I
une touche
want
de
to
légèreté.
add a very
J'aime ce
light touch, a
contraste
touch of
et je
humor.
crois que
I
pour
love these contrasts.
interpréter notamment un rôle comme le rôle
To
principal,
play the
Monsieur Song
main
Kang-ho était
part,
vraiment l'acteur idéal parce
Mr.
que je
Song
trouve
Kang-ho
qu'il a
was
en lui
truly
cette
the ideal
dualité, cette
person because he has these two sides to himself anyway.
Stand up, please.
Hello, my name is Ayako Ishizu for Japan, Bangor, and thank you for the great, and well, what I say. Well, thank you for the performance and the great films. And the questions for the first actors, Mr. Kan Do-won, Song Kang-ho-shi, Ji-eun-shi, Lee-jeon-shi. All those were really great. But what's the big difference between Mr. Koreeda and other Korean directors? I mean, directions or anything. It's really poignant, really different. And for the Mr. Koreeda, how about shooting in Korea? I think it's Busan is well, for the film lovers in Japan, the Busan is a very special place for us. But also, why did you choose especially that location? Thank you.
고레다 감독께서는 한국 감독님하고 가장 큰 차이점은 상당한 미식가라는 점.
The difference between Koreeda and Korean directors is that he loves food. He enjoys good food and eating well, and he loves Korean cooking.
큰 차이점인 것 같아요.
Compared with the Korean directors, that's the main difference.
Les autres comédiens. Gang Dong-ho.
우선 감독님이랑 작업할 때 굉장히 제가 새로웠던 지점은
Working
모르겠어요. 다른
with Mr.
한국
Koreeda,
분들도 그러시는 분이 계실지 모르겠는데 우선 모니터
well, I don't know about other Korean directors,
배우들의 연기를 직접
but
지켜보는 게 굉장히 인상 깊었어요.
on the set with us, he's very present, and he's really with us. It's quite impressive.
잡아낼 수 있지 않으셨나라고.
He really manages to catch emotions and feelings in detail.
는 고레다 감독님의 가장 큰 특징이 저희랑 또
For
다른
me,
언어를 사용하시기 때문에
Koreeda stands out because he doesn't speak the same language as us.
어떤 것을 놓치지 않으려고 집중했던 시간이
We therefore tried keenly to listen to the slightest detail. Because of this linguistic barrier, I concentrated much more compared with other films I've done, and it was a very amusing experience for me. Working with the director was wonderful. We had to use an interpreter, of course, but apart from that, I don't really know. There's no big difference. Just apart from the fact that he has a different nationality. He was very relaxed with us. He created a very relaxed atmosphere, which made shooting the film very pleasant.
Et la réponse.
釜山のロケーション、映画祭でたびたび参加はしているんですけれども、食べるのに一生懸命で、あんまり街を撮影を前提に見ていなかったというのもありまして、今回ロケハンで結構いろんな場所を候補として回らせていただきました。その中でやはり街は坂道が多い、山が迫っている。なのでその立地の高低差みたいなものを生かした場所を撮影の本現部さんと一緒に探して、結果的にああいう場所を選んで撮影しました。とても魅力的な街で、ソウルとの違いもこうワンカットで出るっていう、とても面白い撮影でした。
Pour ce qui est du choix de Busan pour la ville,
Why did I choose Busan? I'd already been there on several occasions to attend the festival, but I was so busy eating good Korean dishes that I didn't really have time to explore the city itself. We did a lot of location scouting in the city. What struck me is that it's a city full of contrasts. Busan is surrounded by mountains, so there are lots of streets which are very steep and hilly. And I wanted to use the difference in levels within the city. I like that idea. It's a city which you can easily identify because it's very different from Seoul, and shooting there was a very positive experience.
Allez-y.
Hi, this is Juan from the Associated Press. I have a question for Director Goro-eda. What was the most difficult scene to film and why? Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. Could you repeat, please? D'accord. Okay.
基本的には本当に撮影は撮影部制作部優秀でスムーズに進みました。車のロケーションも合成を使わずに基本的には全部実際の車を走らせて撮るというやり方をしたにもかかわらずとても順調だったんですけど、一番難しかったのは観覧車が狭くてですね、僕自身は乗れないので、僕は、さっきドンオさんがおっしゃっていたみたいになるべく役者のそばでお芝居を見てジャッジをしたいと思ってたんですけども、あのシーンに限って言うと僕は下で待っていて、観覧車が上に行くにつれて音が飛ばなくなるので、どんなやり取りがあったのかっていうのは戻ってこないと判断ができないっていうような状況もあったりして、そこが一番不安でしたし、撮れたものに一番感動したのもあのシーンでした。
Basically, shooting the film went very well. There were a few times when we felt it was difficult. Even the scenes in the car, we were able to shoot in real conditions with the car just as it was. One of the slightly more complicated scenes to shoot was the one in the Ferris wheel, because the little carriages are extremely small, so I couldn't go on with the actors. I didn't want to have to follow them on a monitor, but in this case it wasn't possible. I couldn't go on the Ferris wheel with them. I had to wait on the ground, and I was a bit anxious to see what was going to happen. They went shooting up, and the higher they went, the less I could hear. I had to wait for them to come back down. That's the scene which was the most tricky for me, yet it gives me tremendous emotion, so I'm very happy with the end result.
Bonjour, Esther Eboyan, du quotidien Eurojournaliste, France.
A question from France. I very much liked your film. Thank you very much. I have a question for Koreeda. Your film could have been a tragedy, but it's actually a comedy at times, a sentimental comedy. Are you trying to depict your faith in humanity?
Mm. 置かれている状況は本当に登場人物誰一人として楽観できる人はいないというか、深刻な状況だからこそ深刻に語るというよりはどこかで軽やかにということは意識しますし、逆の場合はやっぱり逆を考えるんですよね。それは一つの戦略でもありますけども、何かを語って聞かせるときにやっぱ悲しい話を悲しそうに語っても聞いてくれないので、そこはむしろ笑える話として届ける、そういう要素を描いていくっていうのは考えますしこの作品に限らず僕自身はもちろん現実の厳しさというものをどこかにきちんと描き込みながらも、やはり最後に 人間の可能性とかある種の前世みたいなものは、今回特に赤ちゃんをめぐる話でもあるので描きたいなというふうに思いました。
Je crois que j'ai vraiment pris le pli. En tout cas, c'est quelque chose que j'essaye toujours de faire.
This is something I always try to do, whatever the story I'm telling. If things are very serious, I want to inject a lighter note, and if things are very light, then I want to inject a more serious note.
Une histoire grave ou triste de façon
Telling a sad tale, a very serious tale in a sad way, isn't as convincing. I don't think people listen so carefully. So this is a way of drawing attention and interesting the people who watch and listen. I believe that this is something I always like to do, whatever the story I'm telling. In a situation where none of the characters are spared, each character has a tough life, I wanted to have a bit of a comic touch, to add levity. I do indeed believe in the potential of human beings. I'd like to believe that in their innermost depth, people are actually kind and good. If I can, I always try to underscore this.
必ずしも社会的にとか法的に正しいということではなくて、この物語で言えば例えばサンヒョンが選ぶ善というのは赤ちゃんにとって何が良いことかということを考えて行動するということなので、それは必ずしも法的に正しいことではない、そういう矛盾した行為というものも描いていきたいなと思ってサンヒョンのラストを考えました。
J'avais envie de le faire particulièrement.
I wanted to do this particularly because in this tale there's a baby.
Voilà, je pense que ça a encouragé encore plus cette tendance chez moi. Je voulais ajouter aussi
really made this tendency I have even more pronounced. I wanted to show the tenderness people have and their beauty. Sometimes you have to adopt an illegal way of behaving depending on the circumstances. You can't always abide by the law. It's for the sake of the baby that some offenses are being committed and people are not obeying the law. So beauty doesn't necessarily have to mean justice or leading a straight life.
Speak.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Shoko Koyama from NHK Japanese Public TV. I have a question to Mr. Song Gang-ho. Regarding Mr. Koreeda, he after winning the Palme d'Or in 2018, he went to France to film with French actors, and this time in South Korea with you. How do you see his challenge, a new challenge as a filmmaker? Thank you.
고레다 감독님은 이제 일본 그 전작들 훌륭한 전작들도 있지만
Koreeda has made wonderful films.
그리고 또
For example, he made the film The Truth, a French film. And I know that at present he's working on a whole set of projects.
고레다 감독님은 항상 끊임없이 탐구하고 도전하는.
Koreeda is someone who always takes up challenges, and that greatly impresses me.
우리 브로커라는 작품도 그 일환 중에 한 작품인데.
Even this film, Broker, is one of his very riveting projects.
차이점이 사실은.
There are cultural differences between Japan and Korea, but despite this, we were able to overcome them and work happily together. And that made working on the project together even more interesting.
Hello.
Une autre question?
Are there any other questions?
Bonsoir. Donc
donc cinéphile français. Ma question c'est.
My question is for Koreeda.
Do
you have the impression that you're finishing a trilogy with Like Father, Like Son, Shoplifters, and now Broker? It's as though this was the end of a sort of a voyage for you. And we'd like to see you again to shoot another film in France.
そうですね。つながりがあるといえばやっぱりそうなのかもしれない。そして父なるを、取って、こういうインタビューに答えてた時に女性は子供を産むとみんな母親になれるけど男はなかなかその実感が持てなくて父親になるには何かこう階段を上っていかないとなれないんですというような実感を話した時に友人から批判をされまして、その女性でも産んだ人たちがみんなすぐに母になるわけではない、それ母性というものが生まれつき備わっているのだということ自体がやはり男性から見た女性に対する偏見であるっていうことを指摘されて、それはとても僕は反省しました。その言われたことに。そのことから万引き家族の安藤サクラさんが演じたその産まないんだけど母親になろうとする女性と、今回イ・ジウンさんが演じた産んだんだけれどもいろんな事情で母になることを諦める女性という、その2人の女性像というのがその、自分なりにそこの反省から生まれた2人の女性像っていう形で、これは本当に姉妹として描いているんですね。なので僕の中でも直線的にそして血になるからこのショップリフターズブローカーというのはつながっております。
On peut effectivement dire que ces trois
One could say that these three films are linked. When I made Like Father, Like Son, I came to present the film and I answered journalists in interviews. I said that when you give birth to a child, you probably, the mother definitely feels like a mother, but it's more difficult for a father. To feel you're a father, some time has to elapse. At the time, a friend said to me, well, I think you're mistaken. It's not all that simple for a woman either. If you give birth to a child, it doesn't necessarily mean that you feel like a mother or that you have an innate maternal instinct. I think these are stereotypes, the stereotypes men have about women. So I called myself into question a lot at the time. I gave great thought to the matter. And in asking all these questions, I decided to do Shoplifters. And the actress is a woman who hasn't had children, but she wants to be a mother, even if she's never had a child. In Broker, the main character has had a child, Lee Ji-eun, but she doesn't feel ready to bring the child up. She doesn't feel like a mother. And I wanted to imagine the two women like sisters. That's why the three films are interlinked, because they're based on the same question. They follow a similar line, that is, these questions I've asked myself as time has gone by, and where I've tried to find answers. At least I wanted to continue to explore this kind of question.
Hello, this is Monica from SBS Morning Wide and Hanbang. I would like to ask a question to the Kang Dong-won and Lee Ji-eun, who did an amazing job from the film. And I believe the film really requires intentional, intense, and also a bit of very strong characters, and requires understanding of the job and also society in adoptions. I would like to ask, how did you put effort to make this character live for this film? 그 극중 캐릭터를 잘 몰입하고 그걸 잘 하기 위해서 어떤 배우 두 분께서 노력을 하셨는지 궁금합니다.
어쨌든 제가 맡았던 캐릭터 동수는
Well, the character I portray, called Dong-soo, is an orphan.
잘한 사람이지만
He grew up in an orphanage in any event.
하는 그런 브로커 역할이었는데요.
But he sells babies. He's a broker,
어쨌든 제가
a middleman.
보육원 출신 분들을 만나고 대화를 나누면서
So I
느꼈던
met and talked a
그분들의
lot with
어떤
people who had grown up in orphanages.
그리고 제가 느꼈던
I noted this
감정들을
pain and
많이
suffering they had
담아내려고
within
노력을
themselves.
했어요. 그리고 소영
So I tried to share that feeling and portray it in the film. When he meets So-young in the film, his pain is a bit mitigated, and that's what I wanted to show.
저는 엄마 역할이 또 처음이기도 했고 거기다가
For me, it was the first time I was playing the part of a mother, and an unmarried mother, moreover. There were an awful lot of things I had to portray on the screen, whereas I had no experience of this personally.
저희 영화의 첫
I was a bit nervous.
베이비박스라는 곳에 대해서도 좀 더 자세히 알아보려고 하고
Also, the baby box at the beginning of the film, I had to read up on this to figure out what it really was.
고충이나 노고들 같은
The role of a single mother, as this is something I'm not really familiar with. I know nothing about single mothers, so I tried to talk with some, and I watched a lot of interviews. I looked at documentaries that talked about unwed mothers, and I understood to what extent they were very strong. Society looks down on them, and I myself have changed my viewpoint. I see them in a totally different light.
Song Kang-woo, see if you want to tell something about your character?
두 분한테 질문을 하셔가지고 저는.
Well, a question for the other actors.
여기 나오는
I think the same thing.
인물들이 모두 다 이렇게 좀
All the characters in the film
과거든 현재든 그렇게 행복한 어떤 환경 속에서 이렇게 살아가는 그런 인물들은 아닌 것 같아요. 그래서 사실은
people who haven't really been happy in their life. They haven't had a happy past or even a happy present. For Ada,
굉장히 평범한 일상 속에서 벌어지는
has shown us their daily life, which seems very ordinary, but he's also shown the violence, the fears, their invisible suffering. All these things gradually build up in their lives within each character.
이 현실을 가장 객관적이고 차갑게 보여줌으로 해가지고
You really see in a subjective yet distant world how cold the world we live in is. And this really makes our hearts melt.
저뿐만이 아니라 우리 배우 모두가 그런
This is something I understood in this manner in any way. I think that all the actors had a similar approach to the character that they were to portray.
I'm Michaela from Reuters. I'd like to ask about the baby who was part of the cast. Was there only one baby? How was he chosen? Were there auditions to choose this baby? And also for the cast, how was it like shooting with an infant? Did you get to bond with this baby? And how did it help you also get into your character and portray how each character was changed by caring for this baby?
いやもう赤ちゃんは奇跡だなと思ってるんですけどまあ、コロナ禍での準備ということもあって直接会ってたくさんの中から選ばせていただくというようなことはできなかったので本当に限られたもちろん新生児に近い状況の赤ちゃんなので、いろいろなケアも考えながら、動画をいくつか見せていただいた中で僕自身としては一番その周りの音に反応のいい子を選んだつもりだったんですね。顔がどうこうとか伊集院さんに似てるとかそういうことは一切関係なくその音に反応する子っていうことで選びました。で多分それは正しかったと思うんですけれども実際にその撮影の現場でソン・ガンホさんが動くと目で追ったり目の前にいる養父母役の女性の顔に触ってっていうようなことがなんだろうねもちろん僕の演出ではなくて 起きていて、で彼がドンウォンのね電車の中でずっとこう手を握ってたりする、そういうことが多分大人の側のお芝居にも生きてきてるし、最後のねホテルの売りに行こうとするサンヒョンになんか語りかけるように赤ちゃんが大きな声を出してソン・ガンホさんの顔を見るところとかももう二度と多分できないと思いますけども本当にこういうことが起きるんだなっていうぐらい奇跡的な瞬間ばかりが残ってます、映画の中に。
Pour moi, ce bébé est vraiment
Well, for me,
un
the
miracle.
baby is a miracle.
Comme on était en pleine pandémie,
As we were in the middle of the
je n'ai
pandemic,
malheureusement pas pu faire un casting
I
physique, c'est-à-dire que je n'ai
couldn't
pas
do
pu
any real
rencontrer
casting. I
énormément
couldn't
de
actually
bébés.
meet a lot
Donc,
of
tout s'est
babies.
passé par écran interposé.
Everything was done remotely on a screen.
Donc, comme ce sont des tout petits bébés,
As we're talking
évidemment, il
about
fallait
a
prendre en
tiny
compte le fait
baby,
déjà
we had to
que,
take into account the fact
il allait falloir en prendre un soin
that we'd have to take great care of the baby during the shooting of the film. I asked the family to send me videos. What was important for me was not the actual physical appearance of the baby. I didn't care whether he resembled Lee Ju-young, or Lee Ji-yoon, rather. I really wanted the baby to react to external stimuli, sound, for example. And the baby, in particular, this one was really receptive and wide awake, aware of all the noises. For example, he watched people in various scenes. We see the baby playing with his hands, and he also reacts to his future adoptive mother. I didn't direct the baby and ask the baby to do this, so we had some totally miraculous moments. I think we were extremely fortunate. The baby really enabled the adults to portray something different in their characters. For example, when Song-hyun is about to sell the baby, we hear the baby cry as though he was trying to talk, and that is one of the magical moments in the shooting of the film. And the actors? What was it like acting with a baby?
뭐 방금 말씀하신 그 마지막 장면인가요?
Well, as you've just said, I think it was the last scene when the baby is looking at me. I had the impression he was saying, "Oh, well, listen, let's stop shooting. We've done enough takes. Let's stop. I want to stop too." I had the impression that the baby and I were having a whole conversation.
아무래도 송강호 선배님이랑 저랑은 촬영을 예전에 한 작품을 했었었기 때문에
Song Gang-ho and I had already worked together on other films. We knew each other well, we're good friends.
이제 같이 세 명이서 여행을 해야
But
되는데
for Lee Ji-yoon,
처음 이번에 작업이었기 때문에
we were a threesome in the film. It's the first time I'd been working with her. We didn't really know each other extremely well. Even in the film, I'm not really that friendly with her. As the film is a bit like a road movie, bit by bit, we had to become friends, and this friendship developed as the film unfolds. As we had a baby, an addition in the van, with the baby, in fact, it broke the ice because we could talk about the baby together. It helped us, therefore, to get to know each other better.
말씀하신 것처럼 일단 그 아이가 너무 말을 잘 듣고 카메라에 반응을 잘해서
Indeed, the baby really reacted well in front of the camera. He was really good.
같아요. 그리고 영화를 보시면 알겠지만 정말로 아기 중에
We never found it difficult
저는 이제 제 아들이라고
having the baby. He was so cute.
그냥 보고만 있어도 정말로
In the
너무
film, I had to act like I was his mother. But he was so cute. He wasn't a problem whatsoever, and that really helped me to play my part better.
Stand up, please.
Hello, I'm Boramo from Yanam News Agency in Korea. Yeah. I'd like to ask Lee Jun-shi. You played a quite tricky character, a murderer who abandoned your own child. What was the biggest challenge while acting?
첫 엄마 역할이었기 때문에 그리고
It's the first time I was playing the part of a mother. Before I was offered this
엄마 역할을
part,
도전해보고 싶다는 마음이 들 때쯤
strangely enough,
이번을 제안을 받은 거였거든요. 그래서 내가 지금 엄마 역할을 도전해보고 싶은데 마침 브로커라는
I was thinking that it would be interesting to play the part of a mother, and then this project was offered me, so it was quite incredible, the coincidence.
마음이 컸고
The character is a mother, and I really wanted to act as best I could. And she's not just any old mother. She has a complicated past, a rather somber, shady past. She's a complex mother, in other words.
없는 것처럼 보이기도 하고
She has a maternal side to her, but she has to show in the film that she doesn't have any maternal instinct. She looks at the baby with loving eyes, yet at the same time, well, sometimes I had to look loving, sometimes I had to hide it. It depended on the times in the movie.
Bonjour, ça marche. Franck Leclerc de Nice Matin. Le film traite de la question de l'abandon avec beaucoup de délicatesse.
Talks about abandoned children in a very delicate way, and this baby box is a wonderful invention. Did this change the way you viewed these kinds of situations? Is it a question for Mr. Koreeda?
そうですね。日本でも韓国でもこのベビーボックスというものに対する評価というのはまだ定まってなくて、賛否両論あるものです今も。で、多くは多分この物語の冒頭でペドナさん演じた主人が発する捨てるなら産むなよっていう一言。そういう母に対するバッシングというのが多分大半を占めるんじゃないかなと思ってます。あえてその言葉から始めつつ彼女の目線を通して、車の外から見ていたらただの犯罪者の集まりである彼ら、そして売られていく赤ん坊というものを見る目線を、2時間の映画を通していろんな角度から揺さぶっていきながら主人の中で、自分が発した言葉をどういうふうに、考え方とか目線とか母親に対する意見とかが、変わっていくのかっていう、それが縦軸になるんだろうなというふうに思いながら作っていました。何か明快な意見を僕が表明するというよりは、おそらく見た皆さんが主人と同じように旅に同行しながらそれぞれの今までの価値観をちょっとだけでも見終わった後にもう一度見つめ直していただけるような、主人がそうしたように、そんな映画であればいいなというふうに思っております。
Le dispositif des boîtes à bébés est un
The baby box is quite a controversial thing in Japan and in Korea.
On ne sait pas encore dire, il n'y a pas d'avis encore, on va dire, l'opinion publique, on va dire, n'a pas tranché sur le bien.
Hasn't really decided whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Je crois que c'est un sujet
I believe that this is a very controversial topic, and it deserves careful thought in any event.
Ça a été de partir quelque part de, je pense, l'avis majoritaire, ou en tout cas,
I wanted to view things like the majority of people. A lot of people have preconceived ideas about women who give up their children. That's the stance of the detective, the police captain, who represents public opinion at the outset of the film. And she says that it's the first line in the film. She says she shouldn't have given birth if she was intending to give up the child and abandon it. So during the 2 hours of the film, the whole point is to try to open up people's minds and enable all the characters who are taking care of the baby, including the police captain and the spectator through the characters, enable all these people perhaps to call into question their rather hasty viewpoint about these kinds of situations in baby boxes. I didn't want to give an answer in any way or really change people's minds, but I think through the characters, the spectators can actually ask themselves the question again and say to themselves, well, what do I really think? This brings the press conference to an end, and I'd like to thank all those who were in the film for coming here today.